Hello and welcome again to this edition of Phi TV. I'm your host, Brad Swanson. We are coming to you from inside the Florida Capitol during the 2022 legislative session committee weeks, and we are joined by none other than Speaker-Designate Paul Renner.
Hey, Brad.
Nice to see you again,
See
sir.
you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. All right, so you are in the midst of it. You, in your role, are doing everything from raising funds to bring back a Republican majority, but more importantly, you're about to celebrate a very special date. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, November 5th of 1996 was when we ended 122 years of consecutive control by the Democrats of the entire state government. And so we're going to start doing a look back about what that looks like. And so 25 years later, we've got a state that is really the envy of the nation. In addition to not having an income tax, we have a AAA credit rating. We've actually retired some of our debt, which will never be said about the federal government. And just on measure after measure, whether it's our strong economy, our strong education, being number one in higher ed, having great scores in K-12, or our public safety. You saw the rioting, you see the spikes in crime around the country in many cities and states run by Democrats. Here we took a different approach. We actually passed a law to say we're going to clamp down on violent rioting. We're going to protect our law enforcement who get caught in the middle. And so on measure after measure, Florida stacks up so well and beats the competition every time when it comes to Democrat-run states. And so 25 years later, we see what that's meant for us, and we have to stop and ponder what would the world look like here had we not done that. Had we had a Governor Gillum instead of a Governor DeSantis, had we had 25 years of continual tax increases and onerous lockdowns and the things we're experiencing now. And so Florida really has a lot to celebrate 25 years later, but we also have to accept the challenges that not everything is perfect in Florida. We're going to make sure we continue to work on water quality and water supply, which is critical in a state like ours. We're going to continue to press forward because there's more gains to be made in education until every child can read on grade level, which we're not there yet, then we're not there yet. And so we're committed not just to say, look what we've done the last 25 years, but look what we can do together for the next 25.
Yeah, I think Speaker, when we look at kind of your philosophy and we look at so many others, is when good pro-family, pro-business, pro-community leaders are in, some people that aren't in the process will say, oh, good, they can handle it. But smart and astute players of this game of driving Florida forward would say, no, now is the time when we need to put the foot on the gas. And I think that's a great accusation, if you will, but we know that you, Speaker Sprowls, Governor DeSantis, President Simpson have been putting your foot on Florida's gas to drive us forward. What's next for the state of Florida?
Well, I mentioned one thing, which is the environment. And I think the Speaker and President and the leadership in the legislature, along with the governor's great leadership on the environment, have really moved our state in the direction we need to go. We need to tend to our infrastructure, whether it's wastewater or stormwater, make sure we're not putting pollutants into our water bodies. We have to think about water supply with the thousands of people that are coming into the state. So that's one area that we certainly need to stay focused on. We score so well in so many areas, but that is a true challenge, especially with the size of our population, and the fact is that people are flooding in from some of these other states that are not doing as well. Yeah. And so we have to manage that and be ready for those people, as well as road infrastructure. We have to have roads to drive on, and we can't have our arteries of our transportation system clogged. And so those kind of infrastructure issues, I think we have to look ahead and leap ahead to make sure that we're ahead and not behind in funding that and getting our state priorities met in that area.
Yeah, I think one of the breaths of fresh air, if you will, that you continue the legacy of is many states would look at those as challenges, while this legislature and this leadership looks at them as opportunities, because they're not insurmountable, and that seems to be the ethos, if you will, of leadership nothing is too hard to solve if we all work together.
Yeah, and you just look at what a great session that Speaker Sprowls and President Simpson had last year, all of us with the governor, putting billions aside for reserves, really just continuing to be smart, which is what we've done for the last 25 years, so that when the shocks of a global pandemic or a 2008 economic collapse come, Florida has always come out more resilient. But also looking ahead, as we did with septic to sewer, with flooding and resilience, to make sure that we're set up for whatever challenges may await us. And the credit rating agencies have recognized that by giving us their top score as one of the most, if not the most, fiscally sound, fiscally responsible states in the nation.
Well, I think one of the things that Florida circa 10, 15, 20 years ago is Florida wasn't one of those technology leaders. Florida now is obviously one of the most connected states in the world. And when you think about the future of technology and how you guys are creating that great market environment for businesses to come to and to thrive here, talk to us a little bit about how you see Florida being the leader of the nation in those environs.
Well, when I was a freshman, I ran a bill to end corporate welfare where we asked taxpayers to give money away to companies to come into the state. We don't need to do that in Florida because we have really a permanent incentive. All those things I mentioned about our climate is really attractive, and so people are going to come without having to pay them money out of somebody else's pocket that's worked hard for it to get here. But you see those technology companies coming, and I think you're going to see more and more of that with our grades in higher education. That only makes it even more attractive for people to come into the state. And so I think you're just going to see this gravitational pull of people voting with their feet, people in business voting with their feet, bringing their money, their resources, their talents to Florida because it's a place where everybody can thrive. Yeah. And until everybody has that opportunity, going back to talking about reading scores and things like that, until every kid who doesn't have that opportunity has it, our job is not done. Yep. And so we do realize that there's not opportunity for everybody where it should be, and we're absolutely committed to making that happen.
Yeah, well, we know that business and capital goes to where it's treated best, and certainly this legislature and the state of Florida treats those opportunities or those businesses with one of the best environments in the nation to thrive. So thank you for your leadership there, and thank you for the entirety of the team that you bring. Representative or Speaker Renner, sorry, it's new. You were recently designated. When you think about where you and your team and Speaker Sprowls are taking this legislature, what do you think is going to be the biggest success this year? What's your number one success goal, if you will, for this year?
Well, I think it's just really building on what we've done previously. I mentioned reading. I know the Speaker is actively interested in continuing to push that forward as I am. We talked about flooding and resilience and the environmental push that we've made. I didn't mention the Florida Wildlife Corridor and how we're looking to set aside land and conservation, not necessarily buy it, but partner with farmers and other groups that have low density use so that we can continue to have enough land to support that water supply, water quality, keep our farming in place because we've got to have food security. I think if we've learned anything from the disruptions is we can't depend on other countries to feed us. Right. And so we have a great agriculture system here in Florida. We've got to make sure it stays robust. And one way to do that is through conservation easements to make sure that our farmers are continuing to feed half of the eastern, the eastern seaboard during the winter months, which is what we have today, which is a wonderful asset that Floridians may or may not know about, but we have a very robust agriculture community and we got to keep it.
So Speaker-Designate Renner, when you think about what's going to drive your success when it's your turn potentially to be Speaker, who helps you get there?
Well, it's a team sport, and I drew all the lucky cards because Kathleen Passidomo, who of course is my counterpart in the Senate, the incoming Senate president, I couldn't ask for a better partner. And even on the Democrat side of the aisle, Ramon Alexander, who's a good friend, we're going to work very, very well together. And so this is a collective effort in the legislative process. And so having people that treat each other in a professional way, that are thoughtful, that want to really get to solutions and filter out some of the noise is important. I think that means we'll be able to accomplish quite a lot together. Yeah,
civility, no nonsense, and working together. It's always been those are platforms you've led from and with, and we look forward to seeing you use those very tools and work with those great partners.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, look forward to it. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. For more great interviews like this one, make sure you hit us up on our social media feeds. And for now, thanks for tuning in.